you live with Anna. I hope you can hear me okay. My AC is on, so it's a little louder than usual. And today I'm working on some lidded jars, and I thought I would show you how I make them. They are a little bit tricky. Let me show you the one that I have already finished. So this is the one that I made for my daughter. Um, it's a speckle clay. And I believe I used, well, this is all hand painted with just underglazes and then clear. And I made like a maple leaf on top. You can put anything on top, and that's what's nice about um, these jars is that you can really, once you have the basic jar, you can put anything. You can just put a knob if you want to, just to keep it simple. I tend to put a little, let's see if I can show you, a little key here, just so you see that's the way that it was fired. But on this one, it goes around pretty nicely, all the way around. And I used, hold on. I don't know if, yeah, the chat is on. So I use the paste that is for grinding, and it makes everything real smooth after after it's fired. Otherwise, it's grainy because of the clay. This clay has grog in it. So if you use that paste, and I can put a link of that after I'm done streaming when he uploads again, but it's a real nice, I don't know what they call it. It's a paste that is oily and it has some grit in it, and you put it on, on your gallery, on lids, and then you keep rotating them, and then it gets really smooth. So, and it goes all the way around. So I didn't even need to put the key. But it's nice to have it just in case it warps, during the glaze firing. Uh, and so the glaze, I believe, because it's been a while now, I believe it's night moth, I think, which is almost like it's Mako. It's almost like Mako blue surf. It has this real nice dark blue colors with some crystals. So here I'm gonna tilt towards the piece here that I'm working on right now. So I am gonna throw one from the beginning, but I wanted to have something that I could demo how I trim. So this one I had already cut. I just threw this morning and it was still wet. So I had to use my heating gun to, dry it a little bit, enough for me to trim. Um, and so I'm gonna trim just a little bit so you can see. Sometimes you need to adjust. Just put some lugs here just to make sure it's centered. Yeah, sometimes you need to adjust to match, where you trimmed. That's the part that is a little bit tricky because of the shape of your piece. So if it is rounded, sometimes you end up with a lid that is slightly smaller than the bottom part. And that's what happened here because my piece is a little bit rounded. And I'm gonna try to fix that. So here I have the two pieces. This one needs to come out just slightly to be a little bit tighter, the fit. And as I was streaming, because it wasn't completely dry, the little pieces kind of got stuck inside. I'm going to try to adjust this, and we'll see if that works. And I will show you how I do it. I'm just trying to adjust this a little bit so we have a finished piece for you guys to see. So it is a closed form. Okay, so I don't want to have this too wet or you will stick to the bottom part. So
Chat isn't available on YouTube. It's supposed to work on YouTube.
oh, it's not available?
Correct.
Hmm.
When you know.
Okay. Let me see here. Oh, hi, Denise. Oh, I see it now. Yeah. My husband just told me that the chat wasn't available. I guess it is now. Yeah, he's going to check. Anyways, welcome, everybody. I'm just going to dry it just a little. And these heating guns, they really work well if you're trying to dry something real quick. Hi, Ray. I just don't want it to be sticky. Yeah, I think that's good. So this part here is still a little bit wider. So this is the tricky part that I was saying. Hey, Adrienne, good morning. Welcome. Because it was rounded, and when I push the clay in to make the piece that goes inside, to make this piece here, if you don't have a straight wall, then this ends up being a little smaller than that. So I'm gonna try to fix that. Because I just threw this earlier, about half hour ago. I just wanted to show, I was gonna do a pumpkin, but because I already made a pumpkin video, how I throw a pumpkin 2 years ago. In fact, I posted that on, it's under my posts. I put the link there. So I wanted to do something different. So let's see if I can still push this in very slightly. There, let's see. And I'll show you another one that I have that I threw. Yeah. So now it's where I want it to be. It's a tighter fit. Hey, Joe. Well, I'm glad the chat is working. No problem. So another thing I like to do is trim just a little bit here with, I'm not trimming, just using my rib, just to remove some of the clay here and make it a little bit more to match the two, you know, where they join. And then that's really it. I think that's really the hardest part, is to get the two to meet, to, at least to me. I don't make that many of these, but I like making them. And I think the more I do it, I'll get better at it. I do like making lidded jars, but the other way, you know, with the gallery where you throw a lid. In fact, I'm working on some right now that if you guys want, I can show you. I'm doing several teapots. And, you know, with the teapots, you have a few parts that I need to assemble. But I like throwing lids. And what I do is I throw more than one lid, because you never know when a lid is going to warp, or when you're trimming them, something's going to go wrong. So I make at least two for each jar that I make. So anyways, and this one has a tiny little hole here on the top. Um, so that's about it. Um, you can trim the bottom, which I will later, but for now I just wanted to show you how it looks. I haven't trimmed this yet, so I like to put a foot, and it has a little hole here. As I closed, I closed completely and then I opened the little hole, because I like to, whatever you decide to put on top, as it's drying is good, because this is a bigger piece. It's nice to have a little hole just because it expands. I mean, it contracts the clay, so it's nice to have a hole um, until you put your piece. After I put my piece here, I don't worry about making a hole anymore. As you guys know, a lot of my sculpted pieces don't have any holes in them. So, and this is the other one that we're gonna trim a little later. It's still pretty wet. So this one, I made it with 1 pound of clay, and it turned out pretty small. Same thing with the other one. This one here, this ball of clay that I have here, is just a little over, um, just a little over a pound, probably like a pound and 3 ounces. So, and it is white bear, is what I'm using. I like white bear. I work as far as like white stoneware that I've been using lately. White bear is my first choice. It's very white, even though it looks kind of gray. Uh, Hi, Maddie. Thank you. Hi, Marzena. Welcome. Anyways, what I was saying is White Bear from Kentucky Mud Works is a good throwing clay. Some people have issues with cracking for attachments. And what I do is, I don't know if you guys have watched some of my other videos. I love also Iceman from the same company, Kentucky Mud Works. So a few months ago, I did some research, and they both have the same shrinkage rate, except that one is better for hand building and sculpting and doing whatever. Iceman is great for anything you want to do. I don't like throwing with Iceman. It's just me, my preference. I think it's kind of like I don't know, it absorbs the water too quick, and it gets kind of spongy, and I don't know how to explain it. I just don't like it for throwing. So what I do, I throw my pieces with with White Bear, and then when it comes time to attach anything, handles, my sculpting pieces that I attach, I use Iceman, and it works. So if you guys want to give that a try, because you're using something that is really white for the body. So let's say a mug, I throw with White Bear. And because my pieces sometimes I paint, with underglazes and cuerda seca, and it's a great clay to show, because it's so white and not being porcelain, because I know porcelain too can be very finicky. So you can give that a go. Try both. One for throwing, and the other one for any attachments, teapots, sculpting pieces, attaching appliques, whatever you want to do with the Iceman is the clay. I usually like to go a little faster on the wheel here, but once I'm pulling the walls, the way I like to do it is I pinch the beginning, the first or the second pull. I pinch the clay, so I have my thumb a little bit under and this one a little bit over. So I'm pulling and I can use my sponge. So I'm pretty much pinching the clay, and then I change my how I hold, how I pull. But usually, if I can reach all the way on the bottom, on the beginning, that's how I do it. So anytime you do a closed form, um, like if you were doing a pumpkin, for example, you want to keep always the top, not, make sure it doesn't flare out, because then it gets harder to close. It's almost like throwing a little vase. So here now it's getting pretty narrow that I can't fit my hand. And this is what I use. You guys can use a stick with a sponge. I like this guy here is from Zion. I don't know if I'm pronouncing right. Thank you, Maddie. It is expandable, so if you make like a real tall piece, you can keep pushing this and it gets, I don't know how tall it gets. Maybe 20 inches, something like that. But it's great for narrow neck, pieces that you can get all the way at the bottom. When your hands can no longer fit inside. So I'm gonna start coloring in. So another thing I use, I'll show you guys here in a second. Putting just a little bit more water, and this is gonna be my last chance to use the sponge, because there is water in there and you don't want water in your piece at the bottom. So I'm gonna add just a little bit to the walls inside so the walls are wet, and then I'm gonna use this guy here. It barely fits, but it's enough to go in. And then, I don't know if you guys have ever used a throwing stick. This one is very little. They have them in different sizes. And what's nice about this is lets you go into something that your hand can no longer fit inside. And it has this edge here. It's a wooden, almost like a wooden rib. And I'll try to put the link, because these are very useful for, let's say you're making a closed form that is real small, like an ornament or something like that. These can be very handy, and I'll show you how I use it. Remember, I said the wall has to be wet inside. That's a key thing. And so you start from the bottom, and I'm doing my last pull here. And see how you remove some of the slip. Wonder if I should do another one. Maybe I'll do another one here just to make it a little wider on the bottom. So this would make a cute pumpkin too. Now that I'm seeing the shape here. Okay, so now I'm just closing in. You see how it's starting to look like a little cute little bottle here. Rounded shape. I am gonna remove this lip. So at this point, I can't no longer get any water, and there wasn't any water at the bottom, so and then I just add a little water here just to close it. And once you close it, as you guys can see, usually you get maybe sometimes a little ripple in here. You can easily straighten that out with your rib. Doesn't have to be a metal rib. I like my metal ribs. I've been using them for quite some time now. Um, just have to be careful because they can cut you. And you see how I'm just trying to flatten it out. And you usually end up with like maybe some ripples, something that is not perfect on the top, but since the air is trapped, it's very easy to just straighten it out. You see how it it just is because it puts the pressure inside and it doesn't collapse. So at this point, I'm just making this just a little bit straighter, as I was telling you. It's better to have this a section where you're gonna push the clay. Is better to have it straight, even though the form is still gonna be rounded once this piece goes down into this one. But I'm just trying to straighten that out here so that when I use my popsicle stick, you can use any piece of wood that has, the sharp edges. And so I'm just gonna put a little bit of water. Yeah, just don't put too much water. You don't want the water dripping. I'm trying to keep the water just right at that section there. And wetting my popsicle stick, I am going to slowly put pressure on it. Oh, and one thing, make sure you put a little tiny hole in the middle. It's easier for you to push. Otherwise, the pressure from the air won't let you push that well. So here I am just pushing it. And if you see that it starts to drag a little bit, I just wet it a little more. And so that's it. And how much do you push and how do you know when to stop it? You kind of figure how thick your walls are. If it is about 1/8 of an inch, that's how much, you kind of eyeball it. That's what I do. How much you want to push that in. I'm gonna use the end of this, that's that throwing stick, just to make sure I have like a straight edge right here and a straight edge on top. That's all. That's all I do. And now this is gonna dry a little bit until it's ready to be trimmed. I like to use one of these angled, can be either the wooden ones. I have another metal ones that I like to just take the excess from the bottom. Because I think I left enough clay on the bottom to make a foot. And so when you make your jar, some people try to put these a little lower, and that's okay. So it's like, it's almost a sphere, but it's half, like almost halfway. On this one, it's a little higher so that I have more uh, depth here for the bottom part, and then this one is more shallow. So that's just a personal choice. Again, I'm just trying to straighten out just a little bit more here because I know this piece needs to match this piece. So, and that's it for the, I think it's a little rough here. So anyways, I really like these white bear. I don't know if any of you have used that. Let me know what you think of the white bear clay. I belong to several groups, like clay and glazing groups on Facebook, and I often see people complaining about white bear. So I haven't had that as many issues as people say, like attaching handles and stuff. But like I said, I think just to be safe, I use the Iceman for any attachments. Um, so let's see now. Let me clean my hands a little bit because I want to show you how I cut the other piece that is already ready to go. The one I just threw now is just too wet. So I'm gonna try to do one that I did earlier. So you see how it has the hole. And we'll pick up from the part that I know I'm out of sequence here. You haven't used the Iceman, but loving. Oh yeah, Laguna Frost is nice. Sometimes Laguna Frost, it is one of my favorites for porcelain, but for throwing pieces, and it's also good for the sculpting. Like all the sculpting I did, like the chameleons and stuff, I was able to do it with frost without any issues. But for some reason, in the past, I've tried a slab work, and it just didn't work at all. Oh my gosh, it was just yeah, it was horrible. I was trying to make a butter dish that you make with, just from a slab, and it was a complete failure. So I don't know what's wrong, because I know frost is good for, you know, throwing and attaching things, and I can sculpt with it. But for some reason, I couldn't get it to work for slab. It cracked everywhere. It cracked. So I don't know if because I don't do much slab work, maybe I didn't compress as much. I don't know. Do you do, Adrian, do you do any slab work with frost? Have you tried it? Because mine was just horrible. It was a failure. But for everything else, and also I don't do large pieces with that also because I have had some cracking happening for large platters and stuff. So I tend to use that for smaller pieces like my mugs and smaller pieces like that. Um, so let me just use my heating gun just a little bit here. Yeah, I wonder if it was just me because I don't do much slab work. If I just didn't do something right, you know. The way I do my slabs is I try to rotate as I am putting through my slab roller. I always heard that you rotate your slab so that it compresses in different directions. So that's exactly what I did, and that it didn't work. So here I just use good morning, April. Welcome. I just use a needle tool to go under. So you can go either you cut it here on the top, and this part goes into this area here. I don't know if that's called the gallery because it's a little different than the gallery, but some people go on top, and I go here on this bottom here because I want this piece to go inside my the bottom part of my jar. And when I glaze it, I fire them together. So I I I am very careful on how I glaze, and I leave a little, maybe a quarter of an inch, whatever this piece is inside that is unglazed, so that it doesn't get stuck. But I've had a lot of luck just doing it together, just because I know some pieces can warp, and if you fire them together, you have a better luck with that. So it was a little bit too wet to do this now. I should have waited, but I just wanted to demo it. Also, note that when you do a closed form, you always get these little bits that stayed because we closed the form on the top. And what I usually do, I kind of smush it, and if it is too deep, you end up with like a little, almost like a funnel type. You can add a little bit of clay while it's still wet like this and push it, just so you don't, if you leave it without anything, sometimes you get a little crack right there. Um, and so this really needs a lot of trimming right here. See how it's rough. um, Let me see if I can trim this just a little. So yeah, when you trim, that's the time that you adjust things. But right now, this piece is a little too wet. I'm gonna try. It may not work. Just want to see if I can get it to fit inside here. Yeah, almost. So if you're gonna try this, just wait until it's leather hard. You know, I'm just kind of rushing here and trying to show you guys how you can really adjust and trim to make it fit really well. But you can do the same thing at leather hard, same thing. Yeah. Just gonna trim just a little more here. I don't want it to get stuck either. So anyways, yeah, you do want a tight fit because remember you're not gonna glaze, you don't glaze this piece or inside. So right now I have about a 1/2 inch. I'm gonna trim it so that it's maybe a 1/4 of an inch in here. So I'll trim this whole piece here and leave a 1/4 of an inch unglazed in here. So just like, actually I went even lower in here. You see how it's maybe, it looks like it's only 1/8 of an inch is what I trimmed. And then here I left it, you see how I left it a little bit unglazed? And I suggest putting the little key, like I said on the beginning. You can put anything, make a little ball or a little leaf that goes up and down, something to mark it where they match, and then fire them together. And don't use a drippy glaze, especially inside. Like this glaze is pretty stable. The Nine Moth and also Blue Surf, I like that because I know they're stable glazes. So even though they have the crystals, if you use it by themselves, they're not drippy at all. So anyways, I hope you guys have a good weekend. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you're new to my channel. I appreciate you being here, and yeah, have a good weekend and keep making it, keep making pieces. Bye bye.